Martha? Anybody home? I've gone over to see how Helen is. Don't worry if I'm not home by 6. Martha.
Homer Keith is home from work, a comfortable house on a quiet street, a good place to come home to. So muses Homer Keith as he relaxes in his favorite chair. Homer Keith, a citizen of the United States, a working man, a man with a mind of his own. What he thinks and how he thinks and acts affects the course of democracy. As he reads his newspaper, Homer Keith reflects on some of the problems which he and other citizens like him must face and solve. The problems of crime and of traffic in the cities. How to reroute expressways to serve best in-city and through-city traffic. The problem of providing adequate housing, of clearing out slum areas to make way for modern dwelling units. The people must make the decisions on these problems, all the people, everyday citizens like Mary Smith and Fred Johnson and Pete Kowalski. Homer Keith will tell you that intelligent decisions are not reached easily or quickly. Homer has just come to the point of making an important decision. He must decide what he is for and what he is against, so that tomorrow he can cast his vote. How did it all start? It all started on a Saturday afternoon in the spring. It started on the banks of the Sandy River, which flows through the county where Homer lives. Homer Keith is fishing, and the important thing now is a fish on the other end of the line. The Sandy River flows through fertile fields of grain. It supplies life-giving water to Homer's town, and it is an avenue of commerce in his state. But these things are of little concern to Homer Keith at the moment. But wait, it's starting to rain. Rain. A few light scattered drops at first. Rain in a steady, soaking shower. Rain running at first in tiny rivulets in the fields. Rain splashing from gutters and downspouts in an ever-increasing torrent. Rain all that day and all the next. Rain. Rain for more days, days running into weeks. Weeks of rain and leaden skies hanging like a gloomy prophecy over the people of the Sandy Valley. And so it was, as the water swirled and boiled, that the old Sandy grew into a raging giant. A giant that swept all before it. A giant that clawed its way through all barriers, roaring down upon the city. A giant that reached out over the fertile bottomlands, destroying homes and crops. Into the night, men fought the river, the only way they knew how, with sandbags piled up to hold back the water.
Son, you get those wet clothes off right away. Could you save anything, George?
No. Oh, the house is still there, but everything in it's gone.
Thanks, honey, for making the coffee.
Here, George.
Thanks.
You just couldn't stop it. You can't stop a river with sandbags. We just had to stand there and watch it. We just couldn't stop it.
I had the radio on all night. I was afraid you couldn't get out in time.
Well, we're all right.
Where's Helen and the kids?
Over at Helen's folks.
George's gonna stay all night with us, honey. They're pretty crowded over there.
I hope it won't put you out any.
No, it won't. You get in there and get those clothes off and let me wash them up.
In the gray light of the morning, it was all too evident that the battle had been lost. No longer were there fields of grain or clusters of houses along the river's edge. There was only old Sandy over all the land.
Get any sleep last night?
No, I slept some.
Guess I was just too tired to sleep. Couldn't get my mind off this thing. You know, it just shouldn't have happened. I think if some of us would get together and build some dams, we could bring a stop to this thing.
Dams?
Sure. They've been talking dams for years. Now that we need them, they're still talking.
What makes you think dams is the answer?
You saw what happened last night. What else is there?
A lot of folks think there's other things besides dams for flood control.
Well, I don't. The only way you can hold back water is with a dam.
How do you know?
Well,
How do you know, Homer?
well, I think if anybody would be in favor of dams, you would. With 15 feet of water in your house.
Well, I just want something that'll keep the water out of my house. And how do you know a dam would do that?
How do you know? This is your problem, Homer. But how can you find the answer? How can you decide when all you know is what you saw on the river, the aftermath? The homes wrenched from their foundations. The pathetic stacks of possessions piled out in the sun to dry. The heartbreaking task of shoveling out the mud and the muck. Can dams protect men's treasured possessions? You begin to wonder, Homer Keith. And then the voices began. The tired, hurt voices.
If they'd have built that dam, I'd still had my farm today. Look at it now. Under 5 feet of sand and muck.
A $300,000 business. It took 20 years to build it up. 2 days to wipe it out. They said it would never happen.
That's where my house stood, right over there on that point. Levees on 3 sides of it. They said the water'd never get up this high. Everything I had was in that house. It stood right over yonder on that point.
Homer Keith was aroused. His duty as a citizen was clear. The problem was clear. So Homer began by talking about it with his neighbors.
When we saw Jim Talbert's house slide off its foundation and float under the bridge, I don't know, it just did something to us. Now, I don't know what I can do about it, and I don't know what you can do about it. But we've got to do something. We just can't let this happen again.
We can't let it happen again. How those words rang through the community.
Well, now, Charlie says they'll just have to build dams so there won't be any floods no matter how much it rains.
No. Dams are not the answer. Soil conservation. That's the only answer to floods.
If they'd build those levees high enough and thick enough, we'd never have anything to worry about.
Relocation. That's the answer. Move those people out of there. Don't let them rebuild in the valley. It's happened before, and it'll happen again.
Homer was confused. There were many sides to the issue, and each side seemed logical to those presenting it. So Homer sought first-hand information. He attended the meetings that were being held up and down the valley.
Now you folks know just as well as I do that for years, people through the whole length and breadth of this valley have talked about building dams. Some people were for it and some against it. Those who were against it thought the time would never come when dams might save their farms, their towns, and their families. I don't have to tell you that that time did come. And what did we have to stop the waters, to protect our farms and our families and our towns? I'll tell you what we had. A few ineffective levees, a handful of sandbags, and a lot of tired, scared people. Gentlemen, we must build these dams now. What has happened to us once could happen to us again.
I think that fellow's got some good ideas. I really liked what he had to say. I think he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah,
Well, aren't you in favor of the dam?
well, I don't know. I kind of like to hear all sides of it before I make up my mind.
Well, I say we got to get this dam started.
Maybe the dam should be built, and then maybe dams weren't the answer at all. Homer Keith, seeking the facts, looked to both sides of the issue.
I don't hold with these people who are proposing these tremendous flood control projects. And I don't believe a lot of you do either. In my opinion, nothing could have prevented this freak of nature which descended upon us. We can't afford to experiment with expensive gadgets. We can't afford to sacrifice thousands upon thousands of fertile acres to the lake beds which these dams will form. That's the richest land in the world. Has everybody forgotten that? No, sir. Dams are not the answer. We need a complete system of soil conservation to protect our soil and an adequate system of levees to protect our cities. And we need to deepen the river channel in some places. That's what we need to protect ourselves from floods, not dams.
Homer Keith had listened to the experts, and from what he had heard, he tried to sort facts from personal feelings. But Homer went further. He listened to sportsmen who thought lakes formed by dams would be a fine idea because they would make recreation spots. He listened to farmers who resented the fact that their farms would be lost to them, lying at the bottom of a lake. He listened to businessmen who made it plain that they did not want their salvaged enterprises to remain at the mercy of the Sandy River. Yes, Homer saw the problem. He had dug out some of the facts, but the determination to get all the facts drove him on, searching for a solution that would satisfy him. His search led him into what were for him strange activities. His public library opened up new avenues of thought as he studied the topography of the land surrounding the Sandy River. For the first time, Homer began to form an opinion based upon facts. To confirm his conclusions, he wrote to the government weather station to determine if the conditions which caused those weeks of rain were likely to be repeated. There was still another area he had not explored. To find out about it, he had a talk with his county agent.
We believe in soil conservation because water, which is retained in the soil, stays where it is needed. And whether you're for dams or levees or what have you, we have to conserve this country's soil. Soil conservation ought to be an important consideration in any flood control program. And I'd like to tell you, Mr. Keith, we're glad when city people as well as farm people are interested in what we're trying to do.
Yes, it has been a long time since that day when Homer Keith went fishing on the Sandy River. And in that time, Homer has dug out a lot of facts on many sides of a public issue. Homer has been weighing all this evidence. He feels now that he can vote, and vote intelligently. But an open mind is never quite content. Even while it thoughtfully considers all the available facts, it seeks for more. Homer's son has a stake in his community's future. What is his opinion?
I guess a dam would be your choice, huh?
Well, I guess so, but you didn't answer my question. Are you going to vote for a dam or not?
Well, neither one, son. I can't vote directly for or against a dam.
You can't?
No, but I can vote for a man who stands for what I believe in. And if enough other people feel the way I do, he will be elected. Through him, our decision will have some bearing on the way the thing is finally settled. But the main thing is that people have to make up their minds. And once they have, then they can vote.
Yes, people have to make up their minds. And making up your mind intelligently can be hard work. Homer knows. In the first place, you have to face the fact that there is a problem, and that it's up to you to help solve it. Then you must dig out the facts, wherever they are, from books, public statements, reports, and the opinions of your fellow citizens. Once you get the facts, you have to think about them. Think about them until they fall into logical order. That's what making an intelligent decision means. We are almost to the end of the story of Homer Keith's decision. Tomorrow, Homer casts his vote. Today, he and his family enjoy an outing on the banks of the same treacherous river that led the way to making an informed citizen of Homer.
Look at that old river. Sure looks mighty peaceful.
Yeah, it looks a lot different than it did that night we were out here working on it.
You know, one good thing came out of that flood. People got themselves riled up enough to try to protect themselves against old Sandy. Why, I'll bet you there'll be more people at the polls tomorrow than there's been for 20 years.
Yes, there's a lot of interest in this election.
Well, you can't blame them. There's some big stakes. Why, they're betting their homes and businesses against some kind of real flood protection.
That's why I'm proud of you, Homer.
Proud? Of me?
Yes, I've seen what you've been doing. All this reading at the library and going to meetings and writing letters, finding out everything you could. And your home and your business are outside the flood district.
Well, I did what I could.
Well, you could have made up your mind a lot easier.
To tell you the truth, I am kind of proud of myself, I guess. First time I ever went to work on anything like this. And you know, I believe it's something that would work in anything that we do, in our living and in our government.
Gosh, Pop, you sure make it sound important.
Well, it is important, son. The decisions a citizen makes are about the most important thing in a democracy, because they guide him in what he's going to do.
You know something, Pop?
No, what?
I'm proud of you, too.